Hey guys, I told you last week I had a special treat for you. We're here at Naturally Fit in Fredericton for posing with the team, Allison and the team, and we've cornered her into a little bit of an interview, so we get to chit chat with Allison. Allison, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I had no part of it.
Couldn't think of the word.
Oh, the tell me about yourself thing?
Yeah.
I don't like this question. No, ask me a question. Ask me about myself.
All right.
I can't talk about myself.
How long have you been involved in sports or training, coaching?
Well, I've been involved in sports since I was probably grade 6 was the first time I played competitive sports. I played soccer, volleyball, and rugby all through junior high and high school. I played competitive in university, rugby and volleyball. And then after that, I got into bodybuilding, and I've been coaching now, seriously coaching, for probably 4 years? I don't even know that.
What are you looking at her for?
Well, because she was one of my first athletes. You guys
2016.
Yeah, so 3 years.
Yeah.
About 3 years, serious. I picked up a couple athletes here and there, but actually doing it competitively and not competing myself 4 years.
So, what keeps you interested in doing it?
I love the sport. I love everything about the sport. I love the preparation. I probably love the prep more than I actually love the competition. But I have a family. I've got 3 kids. I'm very busy, and the desire for me to compete isn't there right now. And an amazing boyfriend who just gave me eyes. And his name is Michael Bask, and he is just amazing. Is that good?
Okay, no,
Good.
just worth $50.
Good plug?
$50. So I don't have the desire to get on stage right now, and so being surrounded with the athletes and being able to be a part of all that and backstage with my Ripped Angel, a lot of times I'm still at all the shows, I'm just not competing myself. So I love what the sport stands for, the friendships that I've developed in the sport, and I just have such a respect for everyone involved in the sport and how hard it is. So that's my way to kind of still be a part of it, was to coach, and it just seemed very natural and a natural progression for me to move from athlete to coach. And I've loved every minute of it. I get more nervous at 2 weeks before a show. I turn into complete, don't I? I almost get like, my stomach gets in knots, and I'm like checking in with people all the time. I really care about my athletes, and I get really, I want them to do well on stage, and I want their process to be good. So I love the coaching aspect for sure.
Jules, you have a question?
I feel like it's like a game show.
Yes, Jules?
Well, now if you have your own company, where did you coach before?
Well, I originally started with Chiseled, and a lot of the athletes started with me on that team, and I learned a lot actually from that coaching from Jason and Ryan, and Adam was part of that as well, and I picked up a lot of, I think with this sport you can read the books and you can try all these different things, but it really comes down to working with you guys and working with athletes a number of times, getting to know their body and getting to know what works, working with where they're at in their life in terms of what they can do, what their work schedule is like, when they can train, all those kinds of things. And I mean, like Joe, you and I, we've worked together so many times. We tried things in one prep that was a complete like fluke. The next, whatever we tried worked, and other things. So I think working with athletes, you get more sure of yourself. It's not that I'm the most knowledgeable coach and I hold this secret that some other coach might not have. I care about my athletes. I'm very engaged with my athletes. You guys know there's like tweaks weekly sometimes. There's like 6 different meal plans in 6 weeks sometimes. So having my own now is really no different than working for the other teams, other than I love my logo and I love that I can have some freedom to do some different things within the team that I'm allowed to. And I do have a desire at some point to grow the team and start getting some coaches in other areas and growing the team overall into more of a franchise kind of gig, so we have more athletes competing.
And I'm just going to add to that, because I know when you work on plans, you often will change things.
Yep.
And I know you had wrote me a few weeks ago saying you were doing research. So you're always educating yourself, you're always reading, always learning.
Yep.
What is your background,
do that.
education, or...
Well, holistic, many of you know I work for Sculpt, and before that I owned my own Simply for Life. So I've been a holistic nutritionist for 11 years, and obviously this type of eating and dieting is very different. It's not holistic nutrition per se. I do believe in whole foods and healthful organic supplementation first, food first and supplement later. But keeping my athletes healthy and like working with these guys as young as they are, that's been a big important thing for all of us, especially working with mom and dad, that we keep this very healthy and that we keep the right focus for what we're doing. So yeah, I think you can never stop learning, and I think you can also get very confused. So if you are working with a coach, and you hear this all the time from other coaches, stop asking questions to every other person. If you've decided to go with a team, you've decided to support your coach, don't ask a bunch of other people what their opinion is of that. You've entrusted that person, you've paid that person a decent amount of money, so trust that person and make sure that you stay with that coach's information. But yeah, I've never claimed to know it all. All my athletes know that. I've always said, listen, if what I've prescribed doesn't work and you think of something better, or if you want a different food, or this doesn't work for you in your training, there's been many times that I'm like, Joe, what do you think? Should we switch from hits and go to some low intensity, or should whatever? And that's what works really well with my athletes, I think, is having that ability to share and make the best plan together, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what would the current Allison say to the younger Allison as she started this journey?
Oh, jeepers, how much time do we have? I'd say a lot. I would proudly say, though, that I've carried myself through the sport. I do believe that I've stuck true to who I am. Most people who met me 7 years ago would say that I pretty much am who I was when they met me, and that's something that I think is very important. I've always been very true to myself, and I think within this sport it's very easy to get lost in who you are. I hope I've been a great example to my kids at home that this is not an all-consuming thing that comes before them or is more important than daily life. This is a hobby. I'm not going to make it I don't have plans to make it, any further possibly than what I've already accomplished. I left in a competitive year that I really accomplished everything that I had set to do. And if I don't go any further than that, I have left on a high note. But I would tell her to not be so hard on yourself. This sport is all about the physicality and the aesthetics, and having some issues with body image and having some struggles earlier before I started to compete. I think I held it together pretty well, but I definitely did struggle with some body image issues, and perhaps didn't reach out to some people that I could have coming off of the shows, and that self-talk we constantly have to work at. So if you struggle with that in prep, you're definitely going to struggle with it after prep. So to make sure you have supports, and I myself make sure to reach out to my athletes after post-comp and make sure that we're checking in and that the mental health is healthy as well, because it can be really hard to transition from being so ripped and shredded and all the attention, and the newspaper might have wrote on you and everyone's asking how you're doing and the applaud on Facebook is huge, and then you go home to going to work on Monday and eating whatever you want, and the body can adjust, and so it's important to have those things in place. But I would also probably tell her more that I'm proud of you, because again, I am kind of a hard person on myself, and I would say probably most of us are our own worst critics. So learning to be your own cheerleader and learning to be proud of your accomplishments and set the bar according to what you can meet. There's nothing wrong with shooting for the stars, but if you set that bar so high and you don't notice how good you're doing along the way, that's never really as rewarding as it could be. So I would tell her that you're doing a great job, but I do think that I'm pretty true to who I've been through the whole process, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Jay?
So, since you've been doing this for 11 years, is it easy to tell when somebody isn't following their diet plan?
Yep. Most of the time,
That's
I was
easy.
an athlete. Don't forget, I pulled the wool over my coach's eyes many times. I said I did something and didn't do it. Sometimes I might have been able to get a couple extra cardio sessions in and say I couldn't get my pictures in on time because my phone broke or whatever, and then I'd get them in 2 days later and be a little bit tighter than what I would have when I sent them. We've all done it. Don't say you haven't.
I haven't.
But yes, I mean, like I said though, this whole process is not, it's not a bank account. It's not always calories in versus calories out. This is kind of like a science lab experiment in a lot of ways. We've got things like age and hormones and metabolism and all these other things, stress levels, cortisol working against you. So sometimes you'll make a change, the athlete will totally follow it, and it won't happen in a week or two like you think it's gonna happen. They won't drop the pounds, they won't come in tighter. So I think I can tell a lot of times, but it's a trust thing. You just have to trust your coach, and then I have to trust the athlete is doing what they're doing. The only thing I would suggest though, and that I would offer, is if you aren't doing it, don't tell your coach you are, because then we go to make adjustments and changes based on what we thought the athlete has done, and then it's a ripple effect. All the changes that we make from that point forward hinge on you not doing that or doing that. So if I prescribe more cardio and you haven't done it but you've changed, then I'm gonna say, okay, well let's stay there, when 2 weeks after we might be behind because you haven't done, you know what I mean? So it is good to just be honest. If you freaking freak up and eat a Mars bar, just tell us and then we can fix it, right? It's always fixable, close enough.
Have you ever had to tell an athlete that she or he is not ready for a show?
Yes, I have. One time we were on the same page, so that was a very easy talk, and other times it's not as easy because they have to trust you that they're not going to be ready. And when you've been through the process, like I have 8 or 9 times, or I've coached an athlete who's been through the process 8 or 9 times, I can tell where they are and if they're not going to be ready. And again, health is important. I'm not going to put somebody on 4 hours of cardio for 2 weeks to get them ready. It's just not going to be healthy for them mentally. It's not going to be healthy for them physiologically. There's always another show. How many times do we hear that, right? There's always another show. We're not at a pro level here. You know, it's not like if we don't make the show, we lose our chance to whatever. It's important. Your health is important and your mental health is important. And I don't think anything's worth, dying over for 3 weeks of, well, it is. It feels like hell sometimes,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. There's a threshold for sure.
Jules?
So have you always wanted to be a coach?
I've always had the coaching strengths, I think. I mean, I was team captain, assistant captain, and stuff on my teams. Leadership's a strength of mine, I do believe, but I don't know if I ever saw myself actually doing this as a side gig. I'm happy I do because I love it, but I don't know if I think I probably thought I was going to compete a lot longer than I have. I kind of just had that year where I competed and just kind of stopped. And I know when I'm going to be ready to compete again, I'll have that bug, but I don't have that yet. So I think I'll just keep coaching till I get that again.
Jay?
What do you say to a client when they start to doubt themselves?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's an area that I think all of us have a different way of pulling ourselves out of that place. I think if you didn't doubt yourself at least 10 times along this process, you're not prepping. I think even the pros would tell you that they may sit in their hotel room the night before wondering if they've done everything and wondering if they've done as many reps and ate their meals as they were supposed to. Self-belief is the beauty of this sport, I think. I think you ask anybody who's competed once or 21 times, they'll tell you the personal journey they go on and the mental strength and the emotional strength they gain from this sport. That's what can make this such an amazing sport, not just about the body. See, people from the outside see this as a total bodybuilding, it's just about the body, but anybody who has a story to tell that has succeeded in this sport or hasn't succeeded, has just done this for a hobby or found a love in this sport will tell you, some of them come from, really poor upbringing, some of them come from addiction, some of them come from, I found bodybuilding at a really hard time in my life, I was out of a really bad relationship and fell in love with the gym, like all these types of things. So I think not doubting yourself, I mean, you hear it all the time, if you're not nervous before you go do something, then you're too sure of yourself. I don't think any of us are sure of ourselves 1000% when we step foot on that stage. So believing in yourself, I think that's something just as personal and different for each person. But I would just tell them, we hear it all the time, fill in the blank. Trust, The process. You have to trust your coach, you have to trust your body, and you have to trust that you're going to be where you need to be. And if you're not that show, that's the joy of this sport. You go back to the drawing board and you make changes and you show up bigger, better, leaner, stronger, tighter, whatever for the next show. Right?
3 pet peeves that you have to deal with as a coach. Just 3.
Just 3.
Would it be
Asking if you can have something if it's not on your meal plan. I'm not talking about anyone here, obviously.
I don't do that.
You know what? It's a pet peeve because sometimes I believe in the athlete more than they do, which goes probably back to your question a little bit. But when I see them improve so much or look so amazing and so ready, and they continue to just talk bad about themselves or talk down or the negative self-talk or the pulling out all the negative stuff. And listen, hey, I've been there. Like, all of us are the first to do that, right? So that would be back to your rising above that and trying to be, that's a pet peeve of mine, because I see where you come from. How often do I send you guys maybe a picture of 2 years ago on a week that you guys are doubting yourself or don't feel like you should be where you are, and I'll do a comparison shot and send it to the athlete. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget where you started, and that's a huge important thing. So that would be 2. When I find wrappers of food, like in the couch and in the car doors, when I told them they can't eat extra stuff. If you're gonna hide wrappers, the crinkly kind,
Jackson.
don't hide them in places that I'll find them. Okay, that's number
You
3.
don't want to get caught.
You guys have anything else? Okay, I got one more question.
Okay,
What's next?
what's next for
Yeah.
me? I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. I love it. I'm surrounded by an amazing team right now. I feel like you guys have a lot of good goals that are gonna take my coaching up a level, because you yourselves have goals for up a level. And so I'm just really excited about what's to happen in the future with Ripped Athletics. Ripped Angel, it's a little, we're doing a few new styles, that kind of thing, but right now the growth with this team and my work in the communities that I'm working at with wellness coordination and nutrition and helping families get healthier. I mean, I just couldn't be more blessed for getting up every day and being able to do what I do and surrounded by people that support me. It's a pretty awesome gig.
And at least one more watershed.
And maybe one more bodybuilding show.
Nationals.
Maybe.
You do nationals.
There will be one.
Yeah. Some people have some opinions. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
we want to thank you as a family for what you do for
I'm
us.
pumped for you guys. This is going to be a really memorable show, and I think that if we keep the focus, which is, I just want to touch quickly about the age of the athletes that we're working with. As a team, we have said this is a healthy sport if you make it a healthy sport. We are not about the projection of anything negative or sexualizing or unhealthy practices and habits. This has been a completely healthy process, and I think that you guys would agree. The focus of this has been teaching perseverance and teaching structure and teaching what it means to get up at 5 o'clock and the payoff of that. And Jules, I'm sure it hasn't been easy. Jacob? No?
He doesn't wake up at 5, only I
Yeah,
do.
he's kind of easy.
Really?
Oh,
He's
okay,
kinda
well.
easy.
Easier. I
Easier,
should say.
but it's about working for something and seeing that payoff, and I think that's an invaluable lesson that we can teach our kids. And so I'm really proud of you and Joe for keeping that part of the sport. And you know, some people might have some opinions about the ages of them competing, but I can assure you that this has been all positive and all in the right direction, and I hope that we can keep that healthy for younger kids. I grew up as an athlete. There was nothing wrong with me running for 45 minutes if I wanted to run better at track in grade 7. You guys are in whatever, you know what I mean? So I don't think that it has to be a negative thing just because they're in board shorts and a bikini, right? So we've kept it, I think, our focus and our goal is very positive and in the right direction for sure. Would you say? Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
Peace.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks.